Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us once again. My name is Hamza. This is the Think Clinical podcast. We appreciate every time you have spent with us. We appreciate all the comments. We appreciate all the support. Thank you so much. Today we are going to be talking about roll-ups, recaps, and reality checks. Now, this is the era of private equity in healthcare, and these are realities that we have most often not gotten ourselves as clinicians to face, but this is what is happening in healthcare now, and we need to start paying attention to some of these things. We need to start looking at how these healthcare businesses are going to influence what we are doing. We need to look at how these healthcare businesses and how private equity is coming in to support, or where they play a role in some of these roll-ups, recaps, or some of the reality checks that we need to be looking at. So some people, private equity companies are the villain, right? These are like corporate raiders, or they see them as corporate raiders who buy up practices, cut costs, squeeze profits at the expense of quality and culture. This is for some people. For others, it's a savior. So the capital and expertise that lets independent practice scale, it allows them to compete and allows them to ultimately give their founders a real exit, right? So we have these two schools of thought, but the truth is that it's somewhere in between, right? Today we are talking about what private equity looks like in huge chunks of healthcare. What has worked, what hasn't worked, we'll look at all those things. Now, private equity didn't invent healthcare consolidation, but it perfected it, because we've always had that concept of healthcare consolidation in place, but the perfection of that concept was done through PE. Now, the wave really started in the mid-2000s, and especially when we talk about dentistry, and this has been a very big conversation in dentistry, and it was like fragmented, where we have so many, like thousands and thousands and thousands of solo practices, which were mostly owned by individual dentists, which is the traditional model that we had. This is where PE firms saw the opportunity, and this was the pitch. Sell us your practice, we'll give you some cash up front, you keep practicing, we'll handle the business side of it, which is in the billing side, the human resource side, the marketing, the purchasing, and all those other things. And when we sell the whole platform in maybe 5 to 7 years, you have a second payout. So we give you cash now, practice again, we take care of this, you keep doing your clinical thing, and then when we sell again, you get some more money back. This was compelling, and especially for older dentists who didn't have a succession plan, right? So it worked. Again, sort of, because we are still in the situation where most of these are happening. But the model was simple. You buy a bunch of practices, consolidate back office operations, you negotiate better pricing with suppliers and insurers, improve operational efficiency, and sell the whole thing for another PE firm or the bigger company takeover. This is called roll-up. And when it's done well, it creates the real value, economies of scale, better technology, professional management, access to capital. But when it's done poorly, it turns into a cost-cutting exercise that burns out clinicians. It alienates patients, and it ultimately destroys the value. So we have to be able to look at where these where the sweet spot here is, right? So where is private equity money flowing today? According to PitchBook, $58 billion was invested in healthcare services in 2024. That's not slowing down. It's actually accelerating. Okay. Dermatology, we have PE-backed dermatology platforms now. We have PE-backed gastroenterology practices now. We have PE-backed women's health practices now. We have PE-backed ophthalmology, optometry, eye care clinics. So the pattern is clear that private equity targets specialties with predictable revenue, procedural volume, and growth potential. And then here's a stunning statistic, right? PE-backed platforms now control approximately 30% of the dental market, 30%, which is backed by PE. That's not a niche. This is an industry transformation that we need to all pay attention to. So now, when we look at the risks, we are going to talk about the risks of having a PE, and then we talk about what else follows with that. Now, the first risk is that and that's the number one risk, is burnout. So whenever a PE firm takes over, there's often pressure to increase productivity. So you have to see more patients, you have to shorten appointment times, you have to maximize chair time. This is the reality. Now that burns clinicians out very fast. So a 2023 study found that physicians in PE-backed practice reported higher burnout rates and lower job satisfaction compared to independent practices. Now this is a problem that has to be fixed at some point as this relationship evolves between PE firms and doctors. The second risk is cultural dilution. So independent practice often have like a very strong culture. PE playbook sometimes tries to standardize everything: your branding, your workflow, your patient interactions. So when you lose local touch, you lose patient loyalty a lot of the time. But that's hard to quantify. But it is real, it's happening. The third risk that we look at is compliance and quality. When you're optimizing volume and efficiency, there's a risk of cutting corners. So maybe it's rushing through patient interactions, maybe it's upcoding, maybe it's recommending procedures patients don't really need. When regulators or plaintiffs start looking, it becomes a legal nightmare for any PE-backed or any practice that's involved. So the next wave, or what is next, is that the PE firms that win in the next decade won't be cost cutters. They will be capability builders. And what does this mean? It means that they are investing in technology, developing real clinical protocols that improve outcomes, building brands that patients trust, creating cultures where clinicians actually want to work in. These are going to be the determinants of what the next phase of PE-backed practice is going to look like, because the rollup model is maturing and the easy consolidation plays are done. So the next wave would be to really look critically into what we have right now and what is not working, paying attention to all the risks I just mentioned, and being able to understand what that means for you as a PE-backed firm. So, but the reality of this is that private equity is not going anywhere, and inherently it's not good or it's bad. It's a tool that you can use as a company or as a practice to be able to get to the next stage. The firms that used to build better, more sustainable healthcare organizations will create lasting value. The ones that just extract and exit, they will leave a mess behind. That is going to be the reality. Thank you so much for listening. This has been another episode of the Think Clinical Podcast. My name is Hamza. It's always great to be here. Have a great day.